Hello and welcome to the first session of Empowerment, Live the Life You Love. I'm really excited to be presenting this to you today and to launch this first session. My name is Joanne Pugh. I am a certified personal empowerment master life coach, certified self-esteem coach, and the owner of Essence for Abundance. For the past 25 years, I have been determined to live my life to its fullest potential. I've never been one to be just good at things. I did strive for excellence and wanted to achieve above-average results. I read my first self-help book at age 17, wanting to figure out the best possible way to overcome the struggles and challenges of peer pressure, school, working 3 jobs, and family. Since then, I have been studying family and relationship dynamics, business and personal success programs, spirituality, and faith practices to find the answers to not just surviving in this world, but how to really thrive and be happy with this life I've been given and make the most of it in spite of the challenges, adversities, and setbacks that inevitably come up along the way. In about 15 minutes, I will be revealing the key to living a life you love that you have been yearning for but maybe thought was impossible until now. To top it off, I will reveal how exciting, exhilarating, empowering these simple changes can be. And finally, you will discover how to have the confidence and self-esteem you need to get control of all areas of your life and truly start living what you love to do, be, and have. There are 9 key areas to be considered when setting goals, planning your work, and starting the journey to creating and living a whole and fully satisfying life. Most of us get so bogged down by focusing all of our time and energy on just 3 areas that we completely eliminate time and space for the other 6 and wonder why life has lost its magic and we aren't feeling happy and fulfilled anymore. The 9 areas of life are health and physical fitness, finances, money and wealth, family relationships, career and work, socializing and recreation, spiritual faith, personal growth, education and self-improvement, hobbies and special interests, and volunteering or contribution. When I was a young single mom with my first son, life was pretty easy. I worked the night shift at a nursing home, and my parents looked after my son while I worked. I slept around his schedule, and being young and full of energy, I could handle the sleep deprivation. Being young and ambitious, I had all 9 areas of life balanced and fulfilled. I felt pretty good about what I was getting accomplished with my life. I set my goals, managed my time, was organized and self-sufficient. While the outer world was regularly giving me praise and compliments for how well I was doing with my life and responsibilities, many of my family members had different ideas and beliefs about how I should and shouldn't be living my life when it came to work and parenting. I received constant criticisms, and no matter what I did, it wasn't right, not good enough, told it was a sin, and a whole host of other negative ideas. I started to develop a lot of negative beliefs about myself. My self-esteem and beliefs in my worthiness to succeed and be a good, kind, lovable person started to go up and down like a roller coaster. As long as I was out in the world where I was being praised, I felt good about myself. When I was alone with my thoughts and self-talk or with some of these family members, I felt like a worthless failure who couldn't do anything right. My inner and outer worlds were in constant conflict. Mentally and emotionally, I bounced back and forth like a pendulum between good guy and bad guy, from happiness to depression, from total success to complete failure. Everybody who knew me saw me as a strong, confident, well-organized, successful person on the outside. They thought my life had no problems and everything was great for me. On the inside, I felt consumed with guilt, shame, embarrassment, and hid it well. When my second son came along, the ease and flow of parenting became a little more challenging. I worked full-time at my day job and had another 24/7 full-time job as a mom times 2. I didn't have the family support I needed then to give me a break. Neither father looked after their children physically or financially. I juggled work, daycare, budgeting bills, and daily survival for the 3 of us by myself, and still managed and was succeeding. Occasionally, my friends would babysit and give me a break for a night. At the end of the day, I was exhausted. I focused all my time on my boys and loved every minute of being mom and held high family values, but it was still tiring and exhausting. I took parenting courses and worked very hard every day to make sure I was being the best mom I could possibly be, to raise happy, healthy, self-esteemed, responsible boys with good morals and character. A couple of years later, I filed 3 years of income tax return, baby bonus, and GST checks that I had been saving and was able to come up with $10,000 for down payment and bought my first house. A year later, I got married, and then there were 4 people to manage the needs for: shopping, cooking, paying bills, maintaining the house and yard, a job, and sports activities for 2 little boys, school, and homework. I love my family and took great pride and delight in waking up each morning, excited to start my day, plan my goals, and live my dream of building a safe, loving, happy home for my sons to grow and thrive in a positive environment. School did not work well for my oldest son, however, and they called me at work several times a week to inform me I either had to come pick him up, as he was suspended for behavioral issues, or I had to come talk to him and calm him down, as he was sitting in the office and could not return to class until I spoke to him. The teachers could not manage him, and I was the only one he would listen to. Giving this child the support he needed began to take up more and more of my time. He was identified with a mild intellectual disability by a school psychologist, so the school modified his program and made special accommodations to help him learn. Medically, the doctors told me there was nothing physically wrong, and he was healthy as a horse. He was seen by our family physician, a pediatrician who specialized in learning disabled children and ADHD, a neurologist at Sick Children's Hospital, a chiropractor, a naturopath doctor, had a CAT scan, an MRI, and was allergy tested. All tests and results came back a normal, healthy child. But the school system still insisted he needed to be medicated, and there was something wrong with him. He and I attended ongoing counseling sessions with both private counselors and an agency we were referred to by the school, but still no progress was made. My husband wanted no part of this process. My manager at the automotive dealership where I worked was very accommodating, as I often had to ask to make other arrangements to complete my work when I had to leave to care for my son. I took paperwork home and went in on Saturdays to use the computer for claim submissions. At month end, I would take my son to work with me on the days he was suspended and could not go to school. I made sure his schoolwork came with us, and suspension days were not freebies. Refusing to put my child on medications for an undiagnosed medical condition so he could attend school, I began researching other solutions for what I could do to help ease his ever-growing symptoms. My son repeatedly came home telling stories of being bullied at school, but teachers denied his claims and stated it wasn't happening. My son began complaining of an upset stomach all the time, developed sleep issues, and was showing serious signs of trauma. I modified his diet to eliminate all sources of food dyes, additives, and preservatives known to cause behavioral issues in children. I baked all their snacks and bread from scratch and started giving him vitamin supplements to aid brain function and digestion. I learned about aromatherapy and used it to help with stress, sleep, and anxiety. I learned EFT, emotional freedom technique, to deal with the situations that were coming fast and furious with no end in sight. I knew we were in real trouble when my son started disclosing he was contemplating suicide at age 10. I was horrified at the thought, my little boy feeling that badly about going to school, but more so the thought of losing my little boy that way. I couldn't believe that he was even thinking that. The only thing left to change to help this child was the environment he was going to every day. I started looking into homeschool and what it would take to legally fulfill his educative requirements. School officials talked me out of it and said it would cost too much money and we would have to pay for it all ourselves due to my son's learning disabilities. I would not be able to teach him his required courses. Yet my son's best work came from the schoolwork he was doing with me at home. It didn't make sense. He was learning and being productive at home, but the school kept telling me he was incompetent to learn. My husband was dealing with his own life challenges at the time and had been struggling with alcohol dependency. I had been researching proper nutrition and what foods to eat to help with the body's cleansing process and healing the effects of alcohol on the body's organs and functions. I learned reflexology and started giving the entire family healing treatments and using aromatherapy more extensively. We started using aromatherapy for colds, flus, athlete's foot, and whatever else came along. This natural way of living improved the entire family's physical well-being dramatically, and we were all commenting on the effects of feeling better. During this time, my father-in-law became very ill as a result of his years of alcoholism. For months prior to his passing away, I would wake up to my telephone ringing at 6 a.m. with my mother-in-law on the other end informing me that the ambulance had just been called. Every time she would say my father-in-law was throwing up blood and bile, and now he was in a coma state and she could not wake him up. She needed our support and wanted my husband and I to meet her at the hospital because she felt she could not deal with the situation alone. His condition worsened over time, and the phone calls started coming more frequently. The need for more support arose, and I was taking care of 2 households and 2 families. My husband had 2 brothers who offered no help and gave no support to my mother-in-law. We took turns and rotated shifts to stay with my father-in-law at the hospital, and I stopped there every day after work before I went home. I made dinners and cleaned her house so she could come home and relax and have some time off. I brought flowers and left her balloons at the house for Easter as a special surprise when she got home from the hospital. My husband and children shoveled snow, cut the grass, and did minor household repairs. When my mother-in-law needed a break, she would call, and one of us would go sit with my father-in-law for the afternoon and tend to his needs. On April the 28th, 2002, my father-in-law passed away. It was the first death of a significant family member. It was also my oldest son's 12th birthday. Due to the cause and nature of his death, I would say the event was anything but a peaceful, normal progression to the afterlife. The friction it created and the change of family dynamics as brothers raided their mother's home for her possessions and fought for the newly available position of man of the household was mind-boggling, to say the least. In November, 7 months after the death of my father-in-law, my husband had a severe accident at work that required him to have 2 surgeries and left him with a complete loss of use of his right arm. His second surgery was scheduled on my birthday, and yet again, what should have been another happy day spent in celebration was spent in the hospital tending to another serious life crisis. My husband required complete home care, and I again was working by myself 17 hours a day to care for him, my 2 boys, the household needs, and work, with no support. Other family members had no problem telling me no when I asked for some help. My 2 sons did whatever they could to help me out and look after their dad and the house. At age 12 and 7, my 2 boys were real little troopers. The specialist informed me after the second surgery that my husband would never be able to return to his job and would have to undergo extensive physiotherapy and eventually retrain for another job. His employer hounded him relentlessly to return to work and made threats to his job security if he did not return. I made countless calls to the Workmen's Compensation and Insurance Board to act on his behalf and mediated with his employer. There were endless forms filled out and signed, and my husband's medications had to be documented daily. I drove him to physiotherapy appointments 3 times a week, a weekly specialist appointment, and x-rays. 5 weeks later, Christmas came. I felt so overwhelmed and exhausted, I couldn't even do Christmas shopping for my 2 boys. I had absent-mindedly filled the cart with random objects, but when I got to the cashier's line and looked down at what I had, I started to cry and couldn't stop. It was not what I normally put under the tree from Santa. I left the cart full of items right there in the middle of the aisle and walked out of the store. Being the first Christmas since my father-in-law's passing made it even more difficult. My husband was taking Percocets, heavy-duty painkillers. He was unable to bathe or dress himself and was very weak and unstable to walk in the snow and icy conditions. My mother-in-law still insisted we had to be at her house for Christmas Day because she could not make it through the holiday without us. It was also her birthday, and she would not take no for an answer. So we went, completely against my better judgment and physical exhaustion. I cut the visit short and took my family home so we could all get some desperately needed peace and rest. The following day, December the 26th, on Boxing Day, my son came into my room at 9:40 a.m. and said the phone was for me. I was so tired I couldn't even talk and asked my son to take a message. He said, "No, Mommy, it's Auntie, and she says it's an emergency." So I took the phone call and listened while my aunt informed me of the 3rd major family crisis in 8 months. My grandfather had just passed away that morning. The following March, after 4 of the longest months of my life, my husband returned back to work on modified duties. He was still going for biweekly physiotherapy appointments and required support at home, but the amount of dependency on me was decreasing, and I was starting to get some reprieve from the stress and burden. Finally, there was some time in my day for me to start processing all that had been transpiring in my life during the past year. I thought, oh dear God, where do I even begin? The only thing that came to mind was, I'm so exhausted, I just want to sleep. And that's exactly what I did. Every chance I got, even if it was only a 20-minute power nap, I slept. Every successful person will tell you, it's not what happens in your life that matters, it's how you deal with it that counts. Were these moments gifts or burdens? I prayed a lot and gave thanks for the times we all made it through. Each of the life events I described all came with individual challenges to be overcome, but there were also processes involved that happened over longer periods of time and often overlapped other processes from other events. The changes that happened were going on physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I felt overwhelmed by many life-altering events coming at once. These processes of change didn't get to completely heal before another one set in. I got lost in grief, anger, and confusion about what was really going on. I became confused about who or what was controlling my life. I developed self-doubt and started having more questions than faith and confidence in my ability to cope and steer my life and its experiences in the way I wanted it to go, that I could feel good about. When I broke each individual event down, it became easier for me to understand the challenges and processes that were going on in each individual one, and they started to make more sense. Only then could I see the blessings and gifts that I was actually being given. Pregnancy and childbirth, separation and transition from family to independent living in adulthood, stages of parenting and multiple children, time management, organizing basic survival needs for multiple people, relationships, marriage, blending of families, career changes, moving, financial responsibilities, home ownership, mortgages, parenting and learning disabilities, mental health issues, depression, trauma, PTSD, addiction, abuse, sleep disorders and stress, social issues and education for children and bullying, medical emergencies and ongoing health care, death and dying, grief and recovery. This simplified my understanding of what I thought was the problem and made the solutions easier to identify. The greatest fear all humans have is fear of the unknown. The secondary fear that occurs as a result is fear of change, largely due to the unknown aspects of something new. I overcame the fear of the unknown as each change occurred, first by educating myself about it. I read books, took courses, and talked to professionals who would help me understand what I was dealing with and facing, what to expect, and the skills I would need to interact and fully support the situation in the most helpful and beneficial manners. I learned both what to do and to make the situation better, and also what not to do so the problem didn't continue or worsen. By educating myself, I had the power to logically and rationally embrace the situation, face it with courage and the confidence that I could handle it, and the problem could be resolved and fixed. Most of my past experiences of experiencing something new had turned out to be positive, pleasurable experiences, so I eagerly approached the secondary fear of change as a welcome, joyful part of life. With this approach, I thought there should be no more problems, and what I was dealing with should be kept to a manageable, containable situation, right? Boy, was I wrong. The problem then became the closed-minded, illogical, irrational people I was dealing with, who didn't have the knowledge, experience, coping skills, or capacity to handle the situations effectively. The skills they were most lacking in were effective communication and emotional control. These people were fearful, angry, and downright hostile and abusive in dealing with every one of those life changes. No matter how hard I tried to remain polite and respectful, or how much I fought and argued to defend and stand up for myself, dealing with these individuals became a catch-22, no-win situation, and I felt like I was the loser every which way around. My confidence deflated, my self-esteem ran in the negative, my stress went through the roof as problems just worsened and continued to grow with no end in sight, and I had started to become as fearful and angry as they were. My new problem became feeling like a victim who had no right to think, talk about my problems, or have feelings about everything that was going on, including the disrespect and abuse that was happening. And how dare I expect these people to be different because they were right and I was wrong, and I had no choice about that either. The force and power of their fear and anger continued to grow, and the attacks hit me on every level of my being, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, and finally spiritually. Every tactic was used to shut me down and prevent positive changes from happening that would allow me and the people I love the most not only the right but the will to live with love and joy and to exist. I was living right smack in the center of a constant tornado that kept pounding against me, determined to win the battle for power and control, no matter what the cost was to my life or well-being. I stopped being creative, outgoing, ambitious, and successful because I didn't want other people who weren't willing to grow and change to feel bad about themselves. I wanted their acceptance and approval, so I became less than what I was in truth to receive it. I gave up my hobbies, goals, dreams, and lifestyle I wanted and had all the potential to achieve because it was easier than fighting and arguing to get the love and support I needed from the people I thought were supposed to help me and support me. The worst tragedy of all was that I wasn't living one single part of my life for myself anymore. I was living for everyone else's fears, needs, wants, expectations, rules, and problems. Everything I was living went against everything I believed to be good, right, and true about the life we were given. The degree to which we are happy comes from how much we are able to control and steer our own desired outcomes. The key to having control over all areas of my life had to start with me. The first step was to determine who owned my life and this problem. Who owned my mind, my energy, my time, my feelings, my body, my health, my money, my skills, talents, and abilities, and even my spirit, me or them? My parents brought me into this world, but they do not own the rights over me to tell me how to live, what I am capable of, or can accomplish. My family is who I spend time with, but they are not my whole life. Shutting out the rest of the world and all the opportunity it provides to sit in the house does not keep me safe from the world. In fact, it made me fear it more. It did not make me feel safe and secure. It made me feel lonely, isolated, and shut off from love. And most of all, it did not make me feel happy. I felt angry. I had to stop this outer world of insanity and take a good, honest inventory of myself. I had to accept the fact that fear, anger, and other people's negativity had severely distorted my perceptions of myself and everything I had worked so hard to achieve earlier on in life. I accepted that what I was giving into was bad advice and not taking me where I wanted to be in life or how I wanted to live. I had to stop running on autopilot and reacting with anger. I started consciously thinking again by separating the truth and the facts from the judgments, assumptions, criticisms, and opinions of others. With this new process, I could start responding to the world around me and have better outcomes. I learned that emotions are our drivers and motivators, and mine were being driven by fear and anger. In learning what the real purpose of these feelings was for, I accepted my mistakes, that I was using them incorrectly, and so was everyone else. No wonder my messages of the world were being so distorted and misguided. Once I understood the proper use of fear and anger and got these emotions under control, I could look not only at my behavior, but also the behavior of others with a whole new perspective and understanding. I developed new rules about the rights I had that were happier, healthier, and felt so much better to live by. I had reclaimed my self-respect and worthiness to live as a human being again, and accepted that the things I want in life are good, right, and true. The glue that holds the whole foundation of happiness and lasting love together, the key that unlocks all that has been holding you back, is the simplest thing you could ever do. It is fear and anger that create your power struggles, misinterpretations, and misunderstandings of your right to live with love and happiness. We don't do this one simple thing because we fear it will cut us off from our source, but in reality, doing it gives you the key to unlock all your power, happiness, and love. Before I discovered the truth about the key to unlocking all the power and potential within me, I was living in horrible grief, sadness, and depression. I was mourning the loss of myself as my life became imprisoned by the hopelessness and despair, thinking I was never going to be able to have some of the outcomes and healthy, loving relationships I wanted to have. I felt like I was always going to live at the mercy and control of others, no matter what I did. I became depressed that the success I wanted to achieve was never going to happen. I was never going to be heard and respected. I was never going to be free from the prison my life had become trapped in. I felt like I was never going to have the acceptance, approval, or validation as a good, loving, worthy person who deserves something better. After I understood the proper meaning and purpose of fear and anger and reevaluated my right to live my own life, I discovered the real reasons I wasn't doing the one simple thing that would give me back my life, the real me that I always knew I was but kept eluding me. I understood why other people weren't growing and being logical, rational people, and it was all okay. I accepted that they had a right to their own life just like I did, and I could still be okay with that, and so would they. The day it all finally came together for me was the day I discovered I had a choice in every situation to say no to situations that didn't serve me or what I was doing in my life. But I also discovered how easy and good it felt to say no when I learned to recognize the multitude of other options I had that would still benefit others. I didn't have to feel guilty or sad or like I was a bad person. I didn't have to let other people emotionally manipulate me anymore, and I didn't have to sacrifice myself in the process. Once I discovered a better meaning and purpose for saying no and reinterpreting what it really meant about me receiving a no from others, my confidence and self-esteem started to soar. My life took on a whole new meaning and direction. I dealt with people completely differently and was able to maintain control over situations and still get what I want, but also give others more of what they wanted too. I was able to accept that there are some situations where the result I wanted were not going to happen with certain people. I accepted our differences, stopped taking it personally, and learned to walk away from the situations still feeling good about myself. I was no longer depressed, deflated, and imprisoned by life choices. I became confident, empowered, and self-esteemed that I was worthy and deserving of better things again. Fear and anger lost its elusive power, and love and happiness with myself became my source of life and my motivator to look forward to what was possible every day. I started setting new goals for business and a career change, doing what I really wanted to do that I felt good about, had more meaning, purpose, and fulfillment for me. Pride and self-respect poured into my being, and I remembered that my differences from others are what make me special and unique, and that it is also part of the universe's plan that I am the person I am. I have a meaning and a purpose to fulfill. I started using my creativity for that purpose again, and I look forward to doing it. My blocks to creativity let go, and I was filled with excitement and enthusiasm for all that I could do, be, and have in this world once again. I created the workshop 7 Simple Ways to Say No, to give you the same opportunity to have your own key to unlocking your potential to having control over all areas of your life again. This workshop gives you the foundation you need to rebuild your life the way you want it to be, with the glue to finally hold it all together once and for all. 7 Simple Ways to Say No teaches you how to reconnect to the love, wisdom, understanding, and compassion that has been missing from your life, and empowers you to move forward and truly live the life you love. Imagine what it will be like to finally have the solutions to overcoming your greatest difficulties and life challenges. Imagine what it will be like to finally move with the rest of the world with the freedom to have what everyone else has and finally live your dreams and full potential. Imagine having happy relationships with the people you love, having the career you jump out of bed for every day, living the lifestyle you dream of. Everything I thought would take years to accomplish and overcome, if ever at all, was right in front of me the entire time, and I didn't even know it. It is right in front of you as well. All of the life changes and events I thought I had failed at became my greatest pride and joy when I started working through my own processes. I was able to finally give myself all the love and self-acceptance I wasn't able to receive from other people, and learn to grow with love and joy instead of the pain, suffering, and defeat I was feeling. I gave life and love a better meaning and purpose and found true satisfaction and fulfillment in what I was doing and why I was doing it. But most of all, I found an inner peace that I had never known, because I learned to calm the tornado and settle the storms that I once thought were completely out of my control. 7 Simple Ways to Say No is a 3-hour workshop and workbook of the class content. When you register for this workshop, you will also receive your fast action bonus, the Dream Builder Strategy Plan, the creation of my intention, When you register now, you will also receive a second bonus of a complimentary half-hour personal empowerment life coaching session to develop your personal success strategy. Remember, there is another way to look at saying no and still get what you want and give others more of what they want. Saying no doesn't have to cut you off from the acceptance and validation you need and want from other people, or limit your opportunities to move forward and live your goals and dreams. There is a way to do it so it's a win-win situation for everyone all the way around. You can end the pain and suffering of guilt, sadness, and depression, of suppressing yourself, trying to keep the peace and make everyone else happy. You can release the fear and anger of a life that is out of your control and reclaim your right to be happy and loved. You can face the changes you want and need to make to succeed with courage, confidence, and self-esteem. The cost of not learning this highly effective communication and negotiating skill has a much bigger impact on your life than you would expect. You are not only robbing yourself of the fulfillment and satisfaction of living a whole life in all 9 areas that I mentioned at the beginning of this session, but there are other hidden costs as well. The effects of long-term stress, fear and anger can create major physical health issues that can become quite costly and deplete you financially. The cost of medication, treatment, and loss of productivity or missed time off of work can drive you into financial ruins, prevent opportunities for promotions and advancements that could be providing more financial security, or create job loss. Not communicating honestly and effectively with your friends and loved ones may be destroying your relationships with the people you love and care about and need the most. The cost of separation, divorce, child support, or alimony payments, and lost or divided investments and assets can be devastating. 7 simple ways to say no can give you back the control over all this and put you back on top where you were always meant to be, enjoying the excitement and pleasure that simple changes can bring with courage and confidence. Life changes are going to happen no matter what. That is a fact. How well you cope and deal with those changes and negotiate your way through them is entirely your choice. Your survival is dependent on your interaction with others. That is a fact. Who you interact with and how well you succeed at those interactions is entirely your choice. When you register now for the workshop 7 Simple Ways to Say No, you are making a choice to live with courage, confidence, self-esteem, and to reclaim your empowerment that is within you to live a life you love. As an added bonus, you will receive your free Dream Builder Strategy Plan, The Creation of My Intention, and a complimentary half-hour personal empowerment life coaching session to develop your personal success strategy. These early bird bonuses are only being offered for a limited time, so register now. Check out the workshop at www.7simplewaystosayno.weebly.com. If you would like to subscribe to my newsletters and daily blog posts that promote other self-help tools and ideas on how you can start living your dream life, feel free to email me at essenceforabundance@gmail.com. You can also check out my website, www.essenceforabundance.com. In the meantime, be great, live empowered, and live the life you love.